What a night to be talking about the weather movie.
I like how we had a warm winter, then it went to like 20 degrees today.
Oh, I blame this movie coming out. Even though there was really only snow in one scene of this movie. Other than that, it seemed kind of warm in the film.
It's a lot of rain.
I didn't know about this movie until I saw it pop up on the movie list the other day, and I had to ask you, I go like, so is this a new movie, or is this because they re-release stuff all the time? And...
Now, this is one I wanted to see anyway, so when you're like, you interested, I'm like, yes, because you seem to only drag me to shit. So...
Hey, this one, though...
Movies intended for 4-year-olds, that's apparently what I'm good for.
But this movie, though, like, no, it makes sense, because this movie, though, like Playing with Fire, did have animal reactions.
Yes. And if I'm being honest, this was probably the least of his movies, so I'm like, somehow it's still like, son of a bitch! You drag me to lesser film. No, it's, don't get me wrong, it's a good movie, but,
sure.
So I mean, the problem with Makoto Shinkai is his movies are all good. I don't dislike any of his films. The closest I've come to disliking so far, and I don't dislike it, I'm just very indifferent to it, is I want to say it's called Beyond the Clouds, or the Place Promised Us in Our Early Days. It's got like 3 titles depending on which you go with, but that one. But this one's like near the bottom of the list for me, which is not, it's like ranking Miyazaki films. I'm like, well, I like them all. It's just which ones I like the best.
It's not that it sucks. It's just,
it's not that this sucks. This is a good movie, but, you know, and it was going to be impossible, I think, coming after Your Name. Like, there's no way he was going to deliver that again. At least not right after... you know, Your Name. Like, that's like lightning striking twice, so he may need another couple films before he gets one quite like that again, but, you know, so it's kind of like, it's like when critics are talking about maybe The Big Lebowski was kind of like somewhere, I know, like, Ebert or Siskel, I think it was Siskel was disappointed because after Fargo, he's like, really, this is it? And, like, maybe I get what Siskel's kind of thinking, because I'm kind of thinking the same thing a little, like, I'm like, this is fine. Like, kind of thought maybe after Your Name, but I mean, maybe that's the point. He doesn't want to, like, do something, like, really stretch himself.
I've only seen Your Name, so hearing you say this after this movie, I'm like, okay, I think we're both kind of on the same page on this movie.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's
no, not at all. It was funny because Doug came with us too, and he wrote to me earlier and said, can you look and make sure that there's another seat? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I was expecting to pop up the seat chart and it would be like packed, but I looked at it, I was like, oh no, there's still just one guy behind us. And then I thought, wait, I bet I know why. And I looked, we were at the dubbed version.
Yeah.
I went, out of curiosity, I went and looked at the subtitled one, which was like at 8 o'clock, like an hour later.
Oh, but that one was packed.
It was packed. It was like full. We would have been in the front row if we went to that one.
It's fine. I mean,
it was fine.
I prefer subtitle, but
yeah.
Nowadays, like, dubs are perfectly adequate. Is how I describe them. Where I'm just like, listen, it's not what I prefer, but like, I don't cringe that much at dubs nowadays, whereas even I'd say 10, 15 years ago, like, you'd get some dubs and you're just kind of like, oh. Like, I mean, the Pixar people did a pretty good job with the Miyazaki stuff, but you'd end up in some other films and you'd just be like, oh. Whoa.
With the voice of the, with the voice sounded like of the main kid in the movie, and even his kind of down on his luck attitude throughout the movie. Halfway through, I was expecting him to somehow turn into Spider-Man.
He did have that. It was very... This is definitely like... And Your Name was kind of too, but not as much in the characters, but this was very Japanese. He was so just like... is this the first time I'm gonna have to confess my love to a girl? Oh no, what do I do? It's like I'm
having very surprised reactions to really not information, just somebody saying something.
Like, watching so much anime in my lifetime, I'm like, this is as classic Japanese as it gets. Like, can I be more neurotic around the girl? Like,
I know, and I'm kind of sitting there like, you've seen way more than me, so you pick up more on that kind of thing than I do. Or you at least recognize certain things that are common in other movies more than I will, depending on what it is. But, like, my big takeaway from this is, like, of course the weather looks great in the movie and everything, but so does the food. The food looked outstanding in this movie. Like, I like
Japanese food, so I always watch these damn anime where they're like making ramen or tonkatsu or like any of these things, and I'm just like, want now.
And I love fast food. And there's a scene in this movie that has the most
Big Mac.
gorgeous looking Big Mac.
It's the only time a Big Mac will look gorgeous. Doug turned to me, he's like, I don't believe any Big Mac looks like that. And I turned to him, I'm like, it's a Japanese Big Mac. He's like, still
It looked like the Mega Mac. Like when they had the Big Mac, the Mega Mac.
That's how you can tell this movie had a budget.
Yeah.
Because they actually went to a McDonald's and not a Whack-Donald's like they do in other anime. Where it's like, it's clearly McDonald's except they change it to a W.
Yeah. Whack Arnold's.
Yeah. Whack-Donald's is the one I see all the time.
I love, too, that like he even stops and goes like, this is the greatest sandwich I ever had. I was sitting there going, if this is a live action movie, I think I was watching House Guest again with Sinbad and Phil Hartman, where it takes time out to talk about the Big Mac. But I was like, man, I want a Big Mac and I want ramen bad. And if it's raining outside, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, no, he does food porn about as well as he does weather porn.
This movie was total weather porn.
Welcome to the world of Makoto Shinkai. When I read because I heard about this movie weeks ago, and when I read about it, I just laughed my ass off because it's like, well, how's he going to top himself? Because Your Name was just so many of his tropes kind of in one movie. Probably the perfect set of his tropes in one movie. Like, it's not that makes it a bad movie. It's more like this is his magnum opus. Like, all of my tropes, one film, they're here. Yeah. And so I'm like, how's he going to top that? When I read the description, it's like, it's about a girl who can control the weather. There's a lot of rain. This teenage boy and unrequited love. I'm like, son of a bitch. He somehow managed to do it again. Like,
I read the synopsis too. So, because I remember
and then the title just Weathering with you. I was just like, I was like, it sounds like Milhouse's dad's song. Can I borrow a feeling?
And it's got your picture on it.
But it worked. I don't think it's his best film, but it worked.
It was so. Before I watched Your Name, I looked at the synopsis, which was hilarious because it was one of those synopsises where it's like it's not an inaccurate synopsis.
It's like, how do you describe that movie?
Yeah, like when you watch it, it's like, okay, there's way more to this movie than what it says there. With this, reading the synopsis, I kind of went in and was like, okay, I'm waiting to kind of be surprised by whatever this is going to throw at me. And then when I left, I thought, yeah, that synopsis that I saw earlier is about 100% accurate. Because it was a movie that, like Your Name, had a fantastic plot. Gorgeous stuff with the scenery, the weather, the city, and everything. But also was a very gripping story. Like, whether it was comedy or the thriller and disaster aspects of it.
It's ascended, like, I didn't initially consider it his best.
Yeah.
But it's quickly, when I think about all the films he's done, ascended the ranks in my head the more. I've seen it now about 3 times. Yeah. And each time I'm like, yeah, maybe this is the best. There's a couple of his that some other people sometimes don't talk about that I may like more, but like this one went from probably where this one's sitting at now, where I'm like, well, that's good, but I've kind of seen all this before, and Your Name just is shot up pretty quickly in my head. This one I'm not sure is going to do that. But,
no, this is one where I was like, it's not that the story's bad. There's aspects of it that's fine, but I was like, no, this is one where it is mostly kind of just the scenery and everything that's carrying me through it.
Which is kind of weird because, like, if you watch his other stuff, and again, like, I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on this film because this film's good and it's very pretty.
Yeah.
If you watch his other stuff, though, you'd probably look at this and go, like, yeah, this isn't probably the top of the list for how pretty he can get. Like, it's probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, because
I was watching it and I'm just like, oh, it's pretty, but I'm like,
yeah.
Honestly, I thought Your Name was prettier. I thought Garden of Words did some of this stuff better, other ones that he's done. So, like, again, it's like, it's very middle of the road. Like, yeah, it's an alright movie, you know.
What it did well, I mean, the scenery, the way that it was going through the city and everything, I was like, wow, they've really created this really livable world here, better than in a lot of 3D animated movies that I've seen recently. Really good at capturing, not just, he's done it with the rural countryside too, because Children Who Chase Lost Voices, I got the anime food stuck in me, was in the rural countryside, and so was Beyond the Clouds. But the stuff he does with Tokyo, there was, I always get the title, it's like, is it 4 centimeters a second? Like, that one had some urban stuff. His urban stuff, like, you kind of want to live in his version of Tokyo, sometimes even more than, like, the real Tokyo. And the real Tokyo, like, supposedly is pretty clean, but his just almost looks magical. So he does that incredibly well. And he does it really well here, too. It's just overall there maybe just weren't as many standout moments. Whenever there were, it would be something that I wish was longer or dwelled into a bit more or expanded upon.
One of the weird things, you wouldn't notice this because you haven't seen all of his stuff, but
yeah,
there's an actual lack of lens flares in this. Like, he's normally pretty lens flare heavy. Like, he likes to recreate sun effects and this and that, and you know, to just fucking hit me. It's probably because there's so much goddamn rain. And where are you going to get a lens flare? Like an idiot, I probably answered my own questions. Like, there's no lens flares in this movie that he usually has. I mean, Never mind.
What it does well, though, is that it is a funny movie. Like,
oh yeah,
like, honestly, like, the characters are fine, especially the side characters. There are a number of laughs in this movie, especially there's a lot of, like, brief cutaways and snippets of, it's like a montage where it's this edited kind of series of events that are all funny because they're really random, where it's because they're kind of out of context, hilariously so.
He's gotten way better at that too, because like some of his earlier stuff is just dramatic to a point where it's like, geez, like it's very straight laced, and like I feel. Maybe Your Name's the first time I noticed it, but I thought Your Name was very funny when it needed to be. And this one's the same way. Like, I really like these characters. Well, Haruka grew on me.
Yeah.
He was like...
He was fine. He was serviceable.
So suffocating at home. And I kind of rolled my eyes. And maybe it's just the dub, but I rolled my eyes a little bit and thought, like, of course this guy has a copy of To Catcher in the Rye just sitting by him at all times.
He didn't feel like that kind of character.
When I saw that at first, I'm like, nah, this wouldn't be that kind of kid. And then when he started, it's so suffocating. I'm like, all right, maybe it is.
When he starts working for this magazine, the people he's working with are funny, and we're kind of the highlights.
They're very funny. I like their whole job. It's like it sounds like they're kind of just one step away from like a tabloid like National Enquirer.
Like, dude's just a drunk.
You want to just do like Bat Boy? That's what I was thinking with Max. Like, girls that can control the weather. Now, Bat Boy. Yeah. You know, so the characters are really good.
I like the beginning of the movie where he's on the kid is on the ship where this almost kind of dome rain happens above him and he almost falls off the ship. Dude saves him and is just like, whoa, crazy weather, right?
Hey, this is the first time I've saved somebody's life. Cool.
Yeah. It made me think, like, I kind of want to see this director's take on something like Lady in the Water. Or The Happening.
Well, I turned to you in the middle of it. I was like, this is the movie that should have been called The Shape of Water.
Oh, yeah.
It's literally water in various shapes, like, very sperm looking. Like the rain's all swimming around.
Like those sperm falling in Eraserhead, but done in an anime.
But no, I think it's Hina. I want to say it's Hina because Love Hina's an anime I like, and I remember seeing Hina and going like, oh, cool, Hina. There's a Hina in a movie now, or again. Yeah, I really liked her. I liked her little brother, blanking on his name. Yeah, all the characters were great. There just was something about it, though, where I'm just like, yeah, it's fine.
There was one thing
it didn't grab me, like...
It didn't me either, and whenever I thought it would be a plot point that would kind of be forgotten. I mean, I was enjoying how Tokyo is getting more and more underwater as the movie goes along, and then there's something that happens near the end where I was like, I wish this happened earlier, because I want to see...
I'll say this movie's not big on twists, whereas Your Name was.
Yeah.
But there is that one twist, closer to the end where I'm like, well, that is not the direction I thought this story was going. I'm not even sure what to make of it when I think about it now, but...
There was one thing I thought it did... This is minor, but there was one thing I thought it did better than Your Name, which is that, like, I thought those montages and maybe because this movie has a lighter tone through and throughout it, but, like, I thought a lot of those montages and everything were integrated into this one a little better.
I still hate them. I was thinking, I'm like... Another Shinkai montage. Like, it's not the montage itself. If it was just a montage, maybe with just some music. I hate the pop songs, the J-pop. There's one J-pop song where they're falling through the clouds. There's like a Spirited Away kind of scene. There was one there that I really liked, but all of the J-pop songs, I think that's the problem. It was the problem with Your Name. I don't like the songs. I think that's what's bothering me. It takes me out of it for a second. I'm like, huh.
Well, here's what I mean. Like, it wasn't that I was, like, big into the songs or anything like that, because I already can't remember them. But what it, like... There was
they're in Japanese, I'd be impressed.
Yeah, right. But in Your Name, there was that moment at the beginning where suddenly it looked like a sitcom just happened and felt like a completely different movie.
Yeah,
I never felt that way about this.
No, they're integrated better here, definitely. Yeah. I just still did... I don't know, there's just something about the J-pop songs that he uses... just rubbed me the wrong way. I actually like a lot of J-pop, so I don't know what it is. It's not that, oh, I hate J-pop. It's just something about the way he uses it. I'm just like, eh.
Well, there was an ad in front of this for some kind of J-pop thing coming up that I think Fathom Events is doing.
A lot of anime ads in front of this, including it's the Digimon 20th anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
I just, screen went silent, and like, there's hardly anybody else in the cinema, and it was just like, show good anime! Not
like the one guy sitting behind us.
One guy behind us like, I love Digimon. You shut the fuck up. Pours his Coke all over.
But you know what would have been really funny is if the guy behind us didn't know he was in the dubbed version, so when they started speaking English, you just hear, oh!
So I'm sure I'll get shit in the comments. It's not that I hate Digimon.
Yeah.
Nor do I even hate Pokemon. Doug legitimately hates Pokemon. I don't. You can't like anime and just completely hate Pokemon, because it was partially responsible for, helping to get anime into this country. Like, it's just, I was just looking at him like, really, of all the anime you can release, it's like, we need the Digimon 20th anniversary. I'm just like, there's so many other things I would rather just like release that instead. Like, but whatever.
I remember one time I reviewed one of the Dragon Ball movies a couple of years ago. I can't remember which one it was, but like, I hadn't seen any of it beforehand or since, really, so it was kind of a funny review, because I'm just like, I don't know, now he's a kite all of a sudden.
TBC's not my thing. I can't help you with that one.
It's movies like that where I'm like, I have no frame of reference if this is any good or not. Like, maybe it's good. I don't know.
The long. I don't have time for long-running ones.
Yeah.
I think the longest-running one I saw was like Monster. I saw a lot of Bleach and then gave up on it. But the longest I invested was probably 120 episodes of something, and I'm just like, never again.
Yeah. Would you recommend this? Like, theatrically.
I think if you're into anime, like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't regret seeing it.
No, me neither.
Weather, haha. So the biggest question for me is whether this needs to be seen on the big screen.
Yeah.
Your Name, definitely yes.
Yeah, I agree.
This one, I'm not as convinced. I think you could run it on Crunchyroll or Netflix or whoever's going to pick it up, and if you got a big screen TV, at least, like, you're probably fine. If you have a really small TV, then sure, see it on the big screen. But I don't regret seeing it. I enjoyed it. I've got all of his other stuff, so probably just to be a completist, I'll buy this when it comes out. But it's not one that, you know, I'm like, oh, I would have totally need to seen this on the big screen. But
yeah, I mean, like, my mind was wandering here and there in the movie. But I mean, there would certainly be stuff that would pull me back in. Like I said, it is funny.
The characters are likable. I like his.
They are.
I like Haruka calling the little brother senpai, which is like a. There's no literal English. The best English translation, I guess, is upperclassman. It's somebody, if you're in school, like, and you're a freshman and you're dealing with a senior or a sophomore or something, I guess you would say your peers, but somebody in a peer higher up than you.
All I know from that is, like, that term being used is, like, comments lingo.
Oh, senpai noticed me, yeah. So the fact that he's calling the little kid senpai, like, oh, you're the one I need to be learning from. You know, like, I thought that was a cute joke throughout the whole movie.
It was, like,
Though the funny thing is, like, if you don't know anime, you'd be completely lost, because it's not like there's a translation. This is one of the reasons I like fan subs a bit. Yeah. They'll give you translations of things sometimes, particularly in a movie, if it's a fan sub of a movie. You know, but of course, to get those, you have to be a pirate. So
remember when we were watching Your Name and my dumbass didn't know that, like, the newspapers and everything were supposed to be subtitled?
Oh, they were supposed to be yeah. And I'm like, whoa, I got to turn this on, and you were just like, I just assumed.
I'm sitting there like, I just assumed this was none of my business.
But no, my mind wasn't wandering, but I definitely was kind of like, all right, where are we going with this? Like, particularly near the end, there was getting to be. God, he likes to milk those, because he did it with Your Name, but that was the shtick. Yeah. Like, Your Name, it felt earned, because I'm like, well, that's literally from the very beginning the whole, like, MO of this movie. It's like, what's her name? So I'm like, I get milking it there, but this one I'm just like, yeah, we can start wrapping up now. I think we're good.
When I realized that, like, it wasn't. When about 3/4 it hit me, like, yeah, this really kind of feels like it's settled on a tone, certainly. I'm not expecting anything.
Well, the rough thing is, like, you've only seen Your Name.
Yeah.
This, if you've seen his other stuff, just as much as Your Name, which was probably the best of all of his stuff kind of put together, there's just so much kind of repeat, I feel, in this film. The weather's straight out of Garden of Words, which was his original rain porn. So we're recycling the rain porn. The two teenagers in love, like, everything about it. Everything about it, I'm just like, this isn't bad. And there were a couple little twists at the ending that I'm like, all right, a little surprised. But I'm just like, yeah, I've seen this. Like, that's, my friend always put it best. It's like, Makoto Shinkai is a one-trick pony, but what a trick. And again, this is a pretty good trick, but it's not his best trick.
Yeah.
I think if you want you want the best Shinkai film that he didn't direct, like, watch A Silent Voice, which feels like what Shinkai would be if he didn't keep falling into these tropes.
Yeah.
And before you think I'm shitting on Shinkai, he frickin' said that. He's like, this is, like, he was talking about A Silent Voice. He's like, this is the film I wish I could make. So he even acknowledged it, because it had that vibe, but there's no magical realism to it. It's mostly devoid of, there's a big coincidence that I would almost think would be like destiny or almost like a magical realism, but it's mostly devoid of that. It's really good. It's about a deaf girl who gets bullied in a Japanese high school, and the guy who bullies her basically, like, a few years later, like, wants to, like, make amends with her because he feels guilty, and then he got the raw end of the stick himself, got bullied himself, and he's like, oh, that's what it was like. So, and it's a great story. So, like, I feel like I would rather. I feel like at this point I want him to try something like that.
Yeah.
Like maybe a little bit away from all the magic now. That's why I like Garden of Words the best. Like Garden of Words has none of that. I don't remember 4 centimeters a second having that, but I just wasn't as big of a fan of that one. That was just plain old unrequited love. But I thought Garden of Words was interesting because it wasn't two teenagers. Like a couple of the ones I find interesting, he breaks out of the mold, like Children Who Chase Lost Voices. There are 2 teenagers involved, but there's an adult thrown into the mix. So I'm like, okay, this feels a little different. Garden of Words is almost like Lost in Translation with an older woman and then a younger kind of like a student, like a younger guy. Like they feel a little different. The whole just 2 teenagers close to the same age, unrequited love, like with all of the magic thrown in, like it's great. I'm not saying it's bad, but at this point I'm getting a little worn out with it a bit. I'm like, okay, it's like I think he can, and maybe he just wanted to do this because like, well, now the people expect it after Your Name. But I'm like, no, branch out. If they don't like it, they don't like it. Like, just go for it. Like,
when I saw Your Name, I was like, that would have been really, really cool seeing in the theater. With this, I'm like, I could have watched this at home.
Yeah, I mean, another great one that was thinking outside the box was his first one.
Yeah.
Literally had no teenage unrequited love. It was a girl and her cat. It was like some little like short film. She and her cat. Like anybody hasn't seen that, like look it up. I think Crunchyroll has it.
If it's a cat movie, I'll watch it. I love the cat in this movie. The cat turns into Big Lloyd near the end of it.
So the Big Lloyd version of this cat looks exactly like the cat in She and Her Cat. And I was laughing. I'm like, oh my god, like because there's like this little reincarnation twist kind of in She and Her Cat. And I'm just like, is it the same cat? Oh my god! Like, so it, but yeah, no, he's an amazing director. Yeah. I just hope he's not getting too pigeonholed because this is the first time where I'm like, yeah, this wasn't really doing it for me, and it also feels very samey. Where like there's a couple other ones he had that may not have done it for me, but I'm like, well, he was like trying something new, so I give him like credit for that. This one kind of was both like, this isn't grabbing me, and it's kind of the same. I'm like, let's mix it up a little, you know. But it's still a good movie.
Yeah, it's fine. Like there was enough happening in it that was keeping. I was drifting a little bit through the movie, but something would happen.
Snoring at one point.
Did he really?
I heard him. He was like doing that silence. It was like. I like looked. I'm like, oh my god.
Has a blanket with her.
I think it's because of the recliners. He was just like,
it does. Yeah, like I made sure to get coffee before I came here today because I was up early this morning editing, and it was right before I came to the theater where I was like, I forgot I got up so earlier. I meant to take a nap earlier, but forgot. And then I'm like, now it's starting to hit me. Crap. So I went to the coffee place next door to grab something. I go in there and grab another, because I got to head in and see another unrequited love movie, which is Bad Boys for Life.
let me know how it is.
Oh hell yeah, I love those movies.
Oh, I'm excited. I do too. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
Someone was asking me about that, and they're like, "You see Bad Boys and that?" I'm like, "No, I gotta go see an anime, and then I'm probably going home." But
I thought you were gonna say, "And then I'm seeing Bad Boys."
I didn't realize till just now you were seeing it, and I gotta get back. But
oh yeah, I got it.
No, I didn't know that's what you were seeing. I was like, shit. I'm like, maybe I could have seen it tonight.
Tomorrow's Doolittle.
Yeah, you have fun. You've dragged me to enough crappy kids things. I'll skip that.
So on the one weekend you saw something good, you're like, I ain't coming back to see the same weekend.
I'm going out on top.
Yeah, exactly. All right, everyone. Thanks a bunch for watching. Take care.
Later.